Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Evanston. Whether this is your spiritual home or you are newly discovering this community, we are so grateful that you are with us. We are an inclusive and welcoming community seeking truth and love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us is worthy of love and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. We come together to remember our kinship with one another and to hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. There are many links of connection in the description below the YouTube live stream for those of you who are joining us from home, including the order of service credits, ways to support our mission, and to be added to our email newsletter list. A few announcements. After worship, we'll have a 20-minute kinship time from 11:15 to 11:35. Please join us at the back of the sanctuary and say hello to those that you haven't met yet. And after kinship, at 11:35, our all ages faith formation hour begins, which includes the forum discussion group meeting in room 6 and on Zoom. Kristen Lems will present a history of Ida B. Wells and Jane Addams and their connection. Widening the circle of concern small group conversations will take place here in the sanctuary and over Zoom. The 7th through 12th grade youth group will meet in room 13. Kindergarten through 6th grades, Head, Heart, and Hands will meet in room 3. And nursery for ages 0 through 4 is in room 11. At 1:15 today, there is an all-congregation Zoom gathering to learn about UCE's support of reparations both locally and at the national level. We'll also discuss public statements against racism and for racial healing. Team 8th will lead a conversation in preparation for a May vote at our annual meeting. Every member will want to know about this prior to voting on this important board-sponsored resolution. The link to join is in the newsletter and in our realm notice and in the notes below if you're watching the live stream from home. Our Tuesday night adult education series continues with 2 more outstanding speakers, including this Tuesday, March 22nd, Dr. Elías Ortega, our guest preacher today, and the president of Meadville Lombard Theological School. He'll be hosting a conversation about the importance of theological education to our Unitarian Universalist movement. And on March 29th, Yale University Professor of American Studies, Dr. Caleb Smith, will discuss What Are Prisons For? His work includes teaching prisoners through the Yale University Education Initiative and books on the history of American prisons. The Zoom links for both of these events can be found in our newsletter. I am so pleased to welcome Dr. Elías Ortega to our pulpit. In addition to serving as Meadville's president, he also served our larger Unitarian Universalist movement as a member of the UUA's Commission on Institutional Change, which created the Widening the Circle of Concern report that we've been studying for the past 2 years. I am so grateful for Dr. Ortega's wisdom and leadership. Please help me welcome him here.
Good morning. We are Unitarian Universalists. When we lift up our 7 principles, some of us think of them as a form of theology. But they are more important to our collective life than that. They do not tell us what we should believe. They tell us how we should be. They tell us how we should act in the larger world and with each other. We are brought here today by the fact that Unitarian Universalism has fallen short of the image that was presented to the world and to many of those who embrace this religion. but we are also brought here today by the truth that Unitarian Universalism has shifted course to move towards a place of wholeness, a place that perhaps never existed for us in our denomination. It has been a long and sometimes unforgiving road to today. But we are here because we are mindful of that past and because we have hope for the future. We want the practice of the faith to be a fulfilling manifestation of its promise. Open your heart, seek new ways of understanding, and come, let us worship.
The Unitarian Church of Evanston resides on the traditional homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. This land was recorded as being transferred from the local Potawatomi community to the U.S. government in 1829 and then was sold to white settlers. After decades of violent encroachment by the French, British, and then U.S. American settlers, the Potawatomi community had no choice but to sell before they were forcefully removed west of the Mississippi River. The Chicagoland area is now home to one of the largest and most diverse urban Native communities in the U.S. Our faith calls us to name these realities with honor and respect as one small effort toward finding greater accountability, deeper relationship, and mutuality with contemporary indigenous communities. For the land which we use as sacred space, for the animals and plants that have been sustained by this land, and for our ancestors and descendants who are and will become a part of the earth.
I would like to invite Woody Haynes and Luan Vanderpool to light our chalice. As Woody and Luann light our chalice in honor of their 50th wedding anniversary, please join in saying these words. In time of uncertainty, when everything around us is changing constantly, each day new developments, rising numbers, changing guidelines, when the world we live in suddenly seems upside down and topsy-turvy, we light our chalice to remind ourselves of our grounding in our faith. We remember that the chalice flame came into being as a beacon of hope during World War II, a sacred symbol that offered help. In the midst of all, we wrapped ourselves in the warm light of a familiar flame, a reminder of the strength that emerges when we come together in community.
Please rise in body and or spirit and join in saying the words of our historic and living covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Before our hymn and before you sit back down, please turn to one another and someone sitting near you, hopefully someone you don't know well, and say hello and good morning. And if you're watching at home, please enter your greetings in the chat if you haven't done so already.
Good morning. Thank you for being so kind. Good night.
And you may remain uplifted as we sing our hymn this morning. Number 1000, Morning Has Come.
Shines upon
Thank you. And thank you to the person who introduced that story to me. Very grateful. It's beautiful. Each Sunday we hold space for the joys and sorrows of those gathered here, honoring the struggles and the triumphs, the brokenness and wholeness that is woven into the human experience. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like spoken aloud in the service, you can write it in the book found at the back. You can add it to the chat if you're online, or you can send me an email or fill out the Google form on our website. Lots of ways to get those messages to me. These are the joys and sorrows that have been shared today. Wishing Jordan Strieber much joy on their birthday today, though they are in rehab and can't come to UCE today to celebrate. Big love is on its way, and so is cake. Wishing Jordan a growthful, pain-free year ahead from Mama Bear, Christine, and lots of other people echoed those birthday wishes, so happy birthday, Jordan. Joan Retzloff shares, in the 9 years the Fair Trade Cart has been open, we have donated $15,000 to the community while we support farmers and artisans worldwide. Thank you so much to all of you who have stewarded this, this effort for so long. And buy some coffee and chocolate today in celebration. The Nielsen's dog, Carol and Brian, share this, that their dog, Lily, died at the beginning of this month. She was deeply loved and cherished, and we share in your sorrow. Jane Kennemore shares a joy that Uday Hajkalef received his citizenship papers down at the federal building recently. He is the youngest of our first Syrian family that this congregation has supported. So great congratulations to Uday. Jennifer Crosby shares, our family would like to lift up that my dad will be having another hip surgery on Monday, and he is in poor health, including dialysis. He has decided to go into surgery with a half code not to be revived in case things don't go as planned, so they are a little stressed. I share the sorrow for the tragic death of trans activist daughter and sister Elías Mallory here in Evanston over the weekend. This sacred space for our tender offerings is a part of the practice of beloved community. Together, we expand our celebrations and we lessen the burden of our grief. You are invited now to come forward and light a candle for the joys and sorrows on your heart. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, source of infinite and transforming love, we call you into this moment, into this space, made sacred by our intention and made holy by our care for one another. We hold in our hearts all who are suffering around the world and in our community today. Those who are ill or experiencing loss. Those in the midst of brutal and unjustified war in Ukraine, as well as those in places where war rages on in Colombia and Myanmar and Syria and Mali and Libya. We hold in our careful thoughts those who are fearful and struggling without enough food or a safe place to sleep, those who are jailed and dehumanized or traumatized. May each know true freedom and healing. May we be resolved to hold the injustice and pain that inflicts so many with compassion and with the commitment to act for equity, liberation, and healing. May the love within, among, and beyond us all fortify us to struggle for peace and wholeness, always. Let us hold these prayers in our hearts for a moment. Amen. As we say in our covenant, each Sunday, service is our law. UCE is called by our mission, our values, and principles to contribute to our community, to form accountable partnerships, and to express gratitude through giving. Today's offering will be shared with the UU Advocacy Network of Illinois, providing Unitarian Universalists across Illinois with advocacy and legislative leadership to effectively build community and power to promote justice and a healthy planet. If you're joining us from home or in the building, you may text to give, mail in a check, or give from our website. If you do write a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering or your pledge or capital campaign or some other giving. If you are here in the building and have money for the collection plate, please raise your hand and usher will bring you the collection bowl. And please give as generously as you're able, and may what you give bring you joy. I want to welcome Jen's children, Jetson and Finnick. Finnick's downstairs, but thanks for chasing down that offering bowl. Jetson, good job. Nice to have you with us. Our reading this morning is from Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams from Being Black, Zen and the Art of Living with Fearlessness and Grace. Love and compassion are our most essential tools. Compassion is about opening yourself to other people's suffering. You don't take on the pain and get bogged down by it. You become a witness to the sameness of your experience, the universal nature of our existence. You learn to acknowledge suffering without having to turn away from it because it makes you uncomfortable. You bear witness to the pain so that healing can begin. Compassion is the thread that connects the hearts of all human beings, one to another. When you really recognize other people's pain, you feel compelled to take action in response. It is impossible not to. Depending on the situation, that response could be to offer a hot meal, to take to the streets and protest, to put your arms around someone, or just to sit in quiet recognition of their pain. True love cannot help but respond. Our anthem this morning is Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around, which is a freedom song based on the spiritual Don't You Let Nobody Turn You Round. It became an anthem of the civil rights movement, sung during demonstrations including the Memphis sanitation worker strike in 1967. As a reminder, we are collecting contributions in an attempt to pay royalties for African American spirituals which came out of the suffering and struggle of enslaved Africans and were never paid for. We will send periodic contributions to the Reparations Fund in Evanston. You can text to give or send in a check with royalties for spirituals in the memo line if you are so moved. Jen will lead us in this song and invite you to join as you are moved.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around, turn me around. Turn me around, ain't gonna let injustice turn me around. I'm marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let fear and hatred turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let fear and hatred turn me around. I'm marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm marching up to freedom land.
If you are a young person, K to 6, you are invited now to attend Heads, Heart, and Hands in room number 3. In 2017, I received a phone call. That phone call was with a singular invitation, the invitation to join this commission, the commission that will later be known as the Commission of Institutional Change of the UUA, that eventually in 2019 produced a report widening the circle of concerns that many of you have read, and I understand you are in conversation. And I will be honest with you this morning, I was not particularly elated by that invitation. In fact, if I'm really honest, if it was not because of the trust that I had in the person that called me, and the trust that I had already with a number of those others who were going to be part of the Commission of Institutional Change, I would have said a holy no. And a no as a whole sentence, no. And I would have said no because I understood at that particular moment what was the commitment required of engaging in a work of talking about race in a mostly white denomination. And not only talking about race, but looking at the details of our denominational works, looking through minutes, looking through bylaws, engaging not only with religious professionals, but also lay folks on the question of race. what is our responsibility as a faith community to address the impact of racism in our lives. But because of my trust of those who ushered that invitation and the love for what brought me to be part of this faith community in the first place, I said yes. For the last 2 years or so, I've been asked to speak about the Commission's work and to think about a sermon, words to share with our communities about why this work matters. And that question for me, as it evolved in my mind, has become troublesome. It is a question that actually troubled my spirit, because every time I'm asked that question, I wonder if one of the things that I will have to do, either in preparation or after, is in fact justify not only my existence, but those who look like me. To explain over and over again the suffering and the reasons why this work matters. And at times I wonder, why take the risk of compounding that injury again and again and again? And as I struggle with this, I take umbrage and I take courage and hope by the words that Reverend Eileen shared with us this morning, that reading from Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, that love and compassion are really our most essential tools, because compassion opens our heart to the suffering of others. It is not about being weighted down by their suffering, but understanding that there is something that connects us, that you and I are called to bear witness to the pain so that healing can begin. And in fact, for me, that is part of the heart of the call of working and engaging, widening the circle of concern. Can we as a faith community bear witness to the pain so that healing can begin? Because at the end of the day, love, true love, cannot help but respond. And I think for me, when I think about that reality, that true love cannot help but respond, I think about the work of living into our commitments. Every time we gather in worship, we come from different walks of life with different experiences. And we oftentimes come because we seek a space for restoration. We gather with a singular hope, and the hope that our commitments, when they're shared with others, can help build the beloved community. And that means that as a people, we have made a decision to join this community of faith, a community that is grounded in Unitarian Universalist values, because it has something of worth, something that not only makes our lives better, but something that can inspire us in the work of softening the hard edges of the world. We come together with different religious experiences, sometimes without one, and somehow we are gathered in spaces such as this because we believe that a community of faith, we can invest in the shared work of widening our circles of concerns to build a more just, equitable, and compassionate world. And I don't know for you, but to me, this means that I have to say or share with you a faith declaration. And I admit that it is true that even though our boundaries of faith are expansive, we are kind of shy about bold statement of faith. It makes us uncomfortable. But I believe in the work of religious educator Maria Harris, that we fashion ourselves into a peculiar kind of people. And I invite you to think in how do we fashion ourselves as a people when we worship, in our teaching, in what we proclaim we do as Unitarian Universalists. And for us, this is quite simple. As Unitarian Universalists, we are weaved together as a faith community by our shared principles. That is what fashions us as a people. That means that as a people, we are called to and moved to affirm our inherent worth and dignity. That is that as a people, we understand that our lives compel us to live for the work of justice, equity, and compassion. We are a people with shared commitment to promote acceptance of one another, and more than just acceptance, a common purpose that is manifested in how we encourage each other to grow in our religious life, in our spiritual life, in our communal life. We also are called to respond to one another with deep curiosity into what it is that makes our lives tick. We agree to fashion ourselves into a people that are brave enough to guide our conduct in ways that afford us the freedom to seek truth and to strive for greater knowledge. That is a high-stake freedom, and we do so because we're conscious about how to live into democratic lives. But being fashioned as a people, it is an ongoing project. We continue in the work of fashioning and refashioning ourselves because we believe in one goal: the creation of a world community with peace, justice, and liberation, not for some, but for us. For me, this is a long-reaching aspiration. And in fact, in some ways, I am resigned that it will not be my generation or my children's generation. Perhaps it will be their children's children's, your great-grandkids, who will be able to sing songs of liberation that we hope for. However, as a community of faith, we are invited to maintain this work, to keep seeding the seeds of hope for the next generation, the seeds that can feed them into being the transformative agents that we hope to be. And we can do this because of the hope of our covenant, a covenant that called us in to restore ourselves from our journeys, covenant that called us to be active repairers of the harms that we encounter in the world. Our covenants charge us with the generational task of rebuilding a world that is shaped by justice. Every time when we gather, we recite a covenant to one another, to be together in love, a covenant to love the world even more than we love ourselves. To me, it is because of this, because we have fashioned ourselves as this kind of people, that our faith matters today. Our faith is a promise. It's a promise that I understand it has the power to help heal a wounded world. A promise to do the work to live out our deepest aspiration. I think that if we drink deeply from the sources that inspire us, from our witness, from our shared principles, we are a long ways already in the work of being a beacon of faith. That is to live into our commitments and stop being a Sunday morning club where only some can inquire to be a member. I will say, though, that the work of the Commission of Institutional Change, for me, was also a very, very personal work. It was the kind of work that asked me the question, why do I make this Unitarian Universalism my faith home? And when I think about this, there is a poem by Jill Osier that comes to mind, and it's titled Refuge. And I would love to read that poem to you. I will tell you this. I am the only part of winter left. It beckoned, and I follow past all reason. Follow it like the end of a broken train through the wide woods, and I stay with simple tools, set on trying to construct more of a season. And it has taken all of me to do so. You will not believe this storm. You will not believe how deep I sleep. From here, everything will sound like a cry. Everything look like pieces of God. From here, everything sounds like a cry, but everything looks like pieces of the divine. I wish us to pause for a moment, perhaps rest, and let those few lines sit with you. What does it mean to find a place of refuge in our shared faith? It has taken perhaps all of us to storm and brave many storms. But many of us are here, and we remain here because in spite of the challenges that we have faced, this home has given us encouraging, has given us nurturing. This home has helped us live through dark times into new days. And even if everything will sound like a cry because we have been wounded, we have also experienced the secret through love, experienced through one another. Unitarian Universalism has been a religious homecoming for many of us. Many of us sat in the chancery chairs and were able to take a breath of fresh air and take the risk of being in community once again, because we found a place of refuge. For me, I have been able to take the risk to be faithful once again, in spite of the hurt or because of it, in Unitarian Universalism as a faith community, because I have experienced kindness and compassion. And I'm sure you as well. And I think what that asks us to do when we look at the questions posed to us by the report of widening the circle of concern is this: why do you choose to remain a Unitarian Universalist? Why haven't you left? Is an easier question to answer, but why do you remain? Why do we remain committed to this faith? Why? As a faith movement, we talk about the things that we do, and we have story to tell about our social justice work. We talk about the spaces that we open to explore faith belonging in a pluralistic and multi-religious settings. And I am confident that we can speak eloquently. How do we go to do the work that we do? We show up, we protest, we gather funds and send aid, we train others, we create meaningful worship experiences. And that is to say, we are really good at naming what we do. And we can also say about how we go about our business in this liberal faith. However, when it comes to the why do we do what we do, and why do we remain? Things get a little fuzzy around the edges, don't they? When I look back at the ways in which I have answered this question, why do I remain UU? For years, my answer has been simple. It is the faith community and the faith home of my children. It is the only faith that my children have known, and thus I feel responsibility of nurturing and co-creating a faith that sustains them, and a faith that in so doing sustains others. But I have neglected to talk about how this work also inspired me to do the work. And as I inch closer to my second decade as a UU, I can say this: this faith has allowed me a degree of healing, centering, and recommitment to the work of justice. not because of statement of faith or confessions, not because of the songs that we sing or what we say we believe, but because I have seen how our true love have responded in times of need. And this gives me hope. Hope that our larger faith will continue to thrive for us and to the next generation. Because we continue in the word of James Adams to examine our faith because we know that it's worth having. I believe and I hope that you do too in the promise of Unitarian Universalism as a faith for today, a promise that can heal a broken word. We are inheritors of this tradition, and as such, we are its stewards. Let us prove to be good stewards and tend to this work and nurture it, because faith's work is transformative work, not only for us, but for generations to come. May the faith home that we build today enriches the life of others to come. This work is a work of deep hope and a work of faith. And a long journey like this ought not to be started without a blessing for the hope in this journey. And I would love to share with you the words of Reverend Teresa Soto, a weaver of words, of how do we create charms of hope for such a long journey. The first thing to do is to tie a string around your finger. Remember that you are not alone. Think of the ways that our best shared futures are braided inextricably with our present and your destiny. The second thing is to untie that string and let the knots and tightness fall away. Let burden of bleakness roll off your shoulders. Remember that persistence doesn't require all the answers up front. Only one. Fortunately, for all of us, we have one response: to remain together through awkward times and happy ones. May it be so, and blessed be. We have come at a time in which we extinguish our chalice. As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying these words with me. Though the flame is extinguished, we carry with us the warmth of community, the light of truth, and the fire of commitment until we meet again. Please rise in body and spirit and join us in singing hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day.
May the light of the holy, known by many names, shine bright in our path. May compassion soften our hard edges so that we may truly love fiercely. May justice close the space between us so that we may live into fullness of life for our well-being and the wholeness of the world. May it be so, and blessed be.